Greetings! We are the Rudok's Tavern. You may know us from our Instagram where we post homebrew items and monsters of all kinds. We've decided that since not everyone has the time to read the stories we've written, we'll try and narrate them to our best abilities, so that you may listen to them while on the go or while doing chores if you want. So let us not tarry, and let's just get right into it.
Treasure? Do you look like treasure? It would certainly seem so. And do you know who always was the best at hoarding treasure? No, not dwarves, you idiots. No, stop it with that bourgeoisie thing already. What even are leprechauns? It's dragons. Stop it. It's dragons. I thought you'd get that, since I mentioned a dragon temple just moments earlier. But, well, let's just forget this ever happened and skip to the story, shall we? 'Twas maybe a year since I became officer that we captured a smuggler vessel and were just about to throw the survivors overboard when the ship's captain told us something our pointy ears wanted to hear. He was an old dwarf and he seemed to know his way around the continent. He said that he knew of an island halfway between Dragosar and Niginum, covered in dense forests that hid an old dragon structure. Maybe a temple or something, seemingly untouched since the Dragon Wars, over 1,000 years ago. That dwarf would guide us to this temple if we spared him and his crew. I've heard stories such as this from hundreds of men about to die. They all, however, usually rang hollow in the end. But there was something different about this one. Maybe it was the calmness of the dwarf, or the absurd unlikelihood of such a claim, but I think it was the idea of finding a dragon hoard. Our captain accepted his offer, stranded the smuggler's crew on a remote island, promising him that he may pick them up if he speaks truly. The voyage was long and burdening, but the promise of dragon gold was filling us with excitement and energy, and morale was at its best. We stayed off pirating for the time being, as we wanted no delays in our venture, and landing somewhere to repair the damage might loosen a few of our crewmen's lips, which was something we really didn't want. As we approached our destination, Captain only remarked,
"Well, no wonder that no one but some filthy smugglers found this temple."
And I was of the same mind. The place was an island in the midst of a giant and treacherous archipelago, full of hidden reefs and icebergs, forming in this cold and northern climate. Without a smuggler's aid, it would be a miracle to get through it, but it at least made his claims all the more plausible. When we finally landed on the island, it was decided to send a small scouting group first to check if the temple really was there and how it looked like. I was stupid enough to say that only the most skilled and bravest should be the ones to do this task, so naturally it fell upon me to do so. I was sent with our so-called experts on architecture, at least on destroying it, technology, or at least stealing it, and resourcefulness, whatever that is. Therefore, I was sent with our boommaster and his kobold commando. We were a team of 8, and I had a bunch of insane, suicidal, unstable pyromaniacs, equipped with the latest array of volatile technology, modified with gnomish designs recovered in the latest raid on the town of Gnomsh. We made our way through the ice and snow and thickets and bogs, and before we knew it, the sun was setting on us. We all, of course, see in the dark. Unfortunately, someone forgot to tell that to the ice wolves. They didn't even really try to hide themselves. They either relied on our lack of vision or on their sheer numbers. It was an overwhelming amount, too much for our small group. Whole 3, no 4 winter wolves. Stop laughing, you scum. Have any of you ever seen a winter wolf? The next one of you who laughs will get a knife in the guts, so tread carefully. Anyway, 4 winter wolves. Now I'm no slouch with a scimitar, but fighting these beasts head on under these conditions would be suicide, and running wasn't an option either. However, the boommaster had a little something new up in his sleeves. He quickly produced a couple of head-looking devices that he gave to each of us. Each head was modeled differently, but they had one thing in common. They each had a metal ring in their noses. He then pulled on those nose rings of his orc-looking head, and green smoke started coming from his ears. It made me feel all sleepy and sick, but the boommaster soon threw it at the wolves, and they seemed to suffer from similar effects. We all pulled on the rings as well and threw them at the beasts. Each of them started acting like they had a little bit of those miracle mushrooms, if you get me. Good stuff, says I, for once finding a kobold device functional, useful and subtle. But then came the dreaded answer. And you haven't even seen the best part yet? And he lobbed a lit candle at the gas, concentrating around the wolves. Near vast bogs, I might add. Now, I ain't no explosive expert, but I know my bogs, and I know they don't like fire. I quickly threw myself into the greatest pile of snow in the near vicinity, and I barely made it before I felt the immense shockwave that shook the land around me. The boommaster and his merry band of kobolds landed in various distances of the explosion. Unharmed, of course, for they are kobolds. They have adapted for stupid explosive stunts. The rest of the journey was rather uneventful, as most of the wildlife seemed to abandon this island, probably assuming an as of yet unknown volcano decided to erupt. I was in less than stellar mood from my company as they revelled in the carnage they had caused, but that all went away when we captured a first glance of that fabled dragon temple. After 1,000 years it was overgrown with vines and roots, almost looking like it was a part of the nature on that island. But that didn't take away from the magnificence the temple held. I'm no expert on architecture, but there was no doubt here. The dwarf was right. A standing temple from the times when dragons ruled over the world, and it was here for us to plunder. Once the existence and location of the temple were confirmed, we returned to Flotsam and relayed our findings to the captain. Overjoyed with the information, he quickly announced that a requisition party was to be sent, one that he himself would lead. That was rather unusual, as our captain didn't usually join such endeavors personally. His leaderships and skills were mostly given from the rear position, but I guess that this was an operation that required personal oversight. We of the scout party were to be part of this group, along with 12.5 additional muscles and the captain himself. It was said that a bigger party would be more prone to activating the temple's presumed dormant defenses, but I suspect that Captain was afraid of being robbed of any magical treasures before due inspection and appraisal was done. Our journey to the temple was much smoother this time, now that the road had been laid out, and we arrived before sunset. We have quickly located the overgrown doors to the temple, and soon we found ourselves in an enormous main hall of this ancient complex. From first glance, it was obvious that it had been a place of prayers and religion, as it was filled with a ridiculous amount of ornate arters, statues and statuettes made in the dragon image. All of these talks make me seem like I know my way around this history stuff, but I'm only really paraphrasing what Captain said. So let's end this description with the fact that we started filling our bags and pockets with anything that was of some value and wasn't too heavy to carry. And things that were too heavy to carry, well, they were blasted into valuable and mainly carryable smithereens. Kevin left us to our devices in the matter of ordinary treasure, but he had his sight on magic, and that's what he was desperately searching for in these dark halls. It would seem, however, that on this upmost level of a temple, no items of such kind were to be found. This was bad news, as it could have meant that this place had already been robbed before, and what remained were only scraps of the old robbers were too afraid to steal, in fear of the dragon's wrath. Well, that's where we had the slightest advantage. Dragons are all but a dying, broken race now, and their wrath was the slightest of our worries. And since we were probably not meant to be the first to rob this temple, we would possibly be the first to brave the lower levels. How did we know such lower levels were there, you ask? We didn't. But if someone were to have them, it would be dragons, so their non-existence never even came to our minds. The Boommaster started coordinating the other kobolds and began remotely exploding one part of the temple hall after another. After a few such detonations, he happily proclaimed that about 10 feet under our feet the floor goes hollow, and he believes that a hidden chamber is to be found under that layer. The pyromaniac then told us that he had already taken the liberty of calculating the explosion needed to surgically create a small hole to that area, and that he had already planted the tons of gunpowder kegs needed. Kevin told him to stop in his progress, that we would try to find access to that lower level in a less disruptive way, but the Boommaster gave us that insane, guilty look that meant that it was too late for that. The fuses had already been lit. A second later, the whole temple was shaking, pillars toppling over, floor disappearing in a growing chasm, and the room falling on our heads. The captain and I tried to claw our way out, but we quickly lost the floor under our feet and began falling towards almost certain doom. The doom, fortunately, wasn't so certain, and wasn't so bad, because it came with a cushioned layer of running water that swiftly swept us away from harm's way. I didn't know what a river was doing here, flowing through an ancient temple, but I was grateful anyway. In a few moments we were washed ashore, and you wouldn't believe where that river had taken us. It was a room much like the last one, but this one looked like a proper dragon's nest, filled with heaps of jewelries and coins haphazardly thrown around. Items of magical nature were protruding from these heaps like reefs, and our captain soon began reveling in the spoils. We started filling our water-soaked bags with all this stuff, but we found something that had turned our joy into fear. Under all that gold we had found giant scales and bones, once still connected to something's body. It wasn't moving, however, and upon closer inspection we discovered that under those piles a half-eaten carcass of a dragon was hiding. A carcass that was clutching an egg to its breasts. An egg that was cracked open, empty. A dragon egg whose inhabitant was probably still lurking around. The dragon surely hadn't kept us waiting with his appearance. Just when we uncovered the dead body of its mother, a feral snark could be heard from above. There, clinging from one of the walls like a bat, the creature was eyeing us with its bloody eyes. It was a pale, pitiful beast, the veins of the beast clearly visible on its albino head, and its stunted, disfigured body hardly resembling the mighty torso of a grown dragon. Were there signs of this curse that doomed the dragon race those thousands years ago? Or was it simply so malnourished and deprived of sun since its birth that it became this thing? I don't know. But even though it was a small and beast-minded specimen, I can tell you one thing. It was still a dragon, and that means it was bloody dangerous. While there was a hunger in its eyes, it was obvious that those eyes were not as good as they should be. Realizing that the dragon was probably as good as blind, all of us froze in our places and we started sneakily reaching for our weapons. The situation was simple. We wouldn't leave without the treasure, and the dragon wouldn't let us take it without dying. As one of our goblin crew members reached for her bow, she accidentally knocked over a small golden bust lying on the floor. Her futile attempts at stopping the bust from falling only made the resulting sound worse. In a blink of an eye, the dragon tensed up, leapt into the air, and spread its membrane-like wings. Our crew member didn't even have time to scream before she was slashed into bits by the vicious curved talons of the creature, and her body became a feast for the beast. We were stunned by this lethal display, and our conviction began to falter, as no one wanted to be the next to be torn to shreds. At least the dragon was a little bit occupied with devouring the body, and we could make a little bit of sound. But what was one supposed to do in such a situation? I know that I've already told you of some truly dire, inescapable situations, but there was always something one goblin like me could do. But not here. I couldn't escape, I couldn't fight because that would be suicide, and I couldn't stay and wait for the dragon to find me sooner or later. I have to admit that I was on my brink when I thought that surviving would be a miracle, and that's the only reason why I can say the following sentence without any damn regrets. Who would have thought that out of all people, we would be saved by the bloody Boom Master? I jest you not, 'tis true I swear on me tricorn. When the dragon was preoccupied, the Boom Master started taking something from his bottomless bag of explosives. I didn't know what this big phallic metal object the size of the kobold's body was, but knowing the Boom Master, I could guess. What I couldn't guess, however, was the reason why that madman was strapping the thing up to his back and lit it under himself, yelling, "Raise this, you scaly bastard!" Upon hearing the voice and the sound of the burning fuse, the dragon looked at the kobold and quickly darted towards him. A heroic sacrifice, I thought. A noble deed indeed. But that notion didn't stay long, for sacrifice usually involves dying, not a crazed kobold flying, outmaneuvering, and evading a dragon on a giant, unstable, smoking explosive device, which is clearly what had happened. I couldn't believe my eyes, and neither would the dragon if his eyes worked. The crazed fool was cackling like a madman and was throwing one bomb after another at the beast. They didn't injure it much, but they sure made it angry. So much so that the dragon increased its speed and was about to swallow both the rocket and the deluded fool of a kobold. To my surprise, the Boom Master was more cunning than I gave him credit for at the time, and simply cut off the straps tying him to the device, making him fall before being devoured. The dragon didn't notice any creature falling, and did exactly what it was baited into. It munched on the explosive, a snack that proved itself too much even for a dragon. In a moment's time, we were being showered by bits of flesh and blood coming from the beast. This is the tale of how we faced the dragon's wrath, and we came out of it richer and stronger. Bowmaster, of course, survived without a single bruise. We took everything we could find here into our magical bags, and we made our slow way back to surface and then to Flotsam. What's to take from this tale, you say? Well, few things. No matter the danger, we always end up richer. Never get on a kobold's bad side, and good side neither, because both are equally dangerous. But mostly, join our crew. We get things done. If some of you want to mock or doubt, let me remind you that we have fought a dragon and won. How many can say the same?
So that's all the story for now. If you like what we do, you can also find us on our website, link in the description, where we post all of our homebrew and other stuff, including collaborations with other various talented people. If you are feeling generous, you can also check out our Patreon, where we give various rewards for monthly subscriptions. To end this with, we would like to give an enormous thanks to all of our patrons. You guys are amazing. So that would truly be everything for now. Thank you all for watching, and we hope you'll be up for another round next time.